Most coaches and consultants start YouTube because they see their competitors getting thousands of views, booking hundreds of calls, and collecting cash, all while building huge authority within their niches. And you're probably stuck trying to create the perfect videos, but you end up posting inconsistently because it simply takes up too much time. But what if I told you there's a simple framework that you can use to create videos that actually convert viewers into high-paying clients without spending hours planning content or even trying to go viral? So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 6-step video framework that's helping coaches and consultants land high-ticket clients from YouTube. And oh yeah, I've done 15.4 million views for myself. Okay, so step 1 is important because you need to know what you're actually going to talk about before you can even think about filming. All you need to do is 2 very simple things. First of all, you're going to ask yourself what are some of the biggest problems that your viewers face. And then you want to write down all these problems on either like a blank document or a piece of paper. And then the next thing you want to do is just choose one of these problems. And then we're going to make a video with the simplest actionable steps to solve it. So here's an example from the wholesale real estate niche. He made a video titled Wholesale Real Estate Contracts for Dummies. Now this video pretty much just explained how wholesale real estate contracts worked, and it was targeted towards anyone that had any confusion or was worried about, if a deal went wrong, would they be liable for any money? So he simply just picked one of the biggest problems that his viewers face and then just made a video solving it. So this moves us on to step 2, and this is where most coaches get stuck because they know what problem they want to solve, but they have no idea how to structure their thoughts into a clear way that actually makes sense to their viewers. And if you end up covering too many topics in one video, the viewer walks away thinking, yeah, that might have been interesting, but still has no idea how to actually solve the problem that you were trying to teach. So the first thing you want to do is free write anything you could possibly put in the video into a document. Don't worry if it's all jumbled up because we're going to fix that later on. The main thing we're trying to do right now is basically just get our brain to spit out anything it can think of. The next thing you want to do is get very clear on the key thing that will keep the viewer watching until the end. So essentially, this is actually going to be what the viewer learned by the end of the video. So going back to the wholesale real estate video example, by the end of that video, the viewer should know how to make any standard purchase agreement assignable so they can legally wholesale the property to another buyer. And don't worry if things are still a bit confusing because we're going to come back to all this when we get to the video structure. So once you get clear on the end goal of the video, you gain so much more clarity on what to actually talk about inside the video rather than going off topic, which leads us on to step 3, and this is where you're going to craft your title. And I know that might seem backwards doing this right after the brainstorm, but here's why it's critical. Your title is one of the first battles that you actually face on YouTube. So without getting the click in the first place, nobody's ever going to see your video. But secondly, it determines what is said in the hook, because it needs to instantly validate that the viewer made the right choice by clicking on your video. Think about it. Imagine you clicked on a video with a specific title that solved a specific problem, and in the first minute of the video he talked about things that were completely irrelevant to what you thought was inside the video. You're probably just going to leave. So because they've chosen your video out of all the other possible videos on the homepage, we need to give them what they want, and we need to give it to them fast. Which brings us on to step 4, and this is something most coaches completely overlook, which is creating the thumbnail. Now this is actually more important than your title because people see your thumbnail first before they look at the title. So if you get this wrong, nobody will ever see your video, no matter how good it is. One of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of coaches and consultants make with their thumbnails is that they're copying the title and putting it in the thumbnail. The reason why this is bad is because you lose out on the curiosity factor. Because the title and thumbnail are meant to work together to get the viewer to click on the video. Because if the first thing you look at is the thumbnail and then you go and look at the title, but if they're the same kind of thing, it's just not going to create enough curiosity to hook them in. So a good thumbnail is something that creates a lot of curiosity and complements the title. It doesn't copy it. Here's an example from one of my own thumbnails. It says this kills sales, and then the word that actually is killing the sales is blurred off. They're going to want to know what is actually killing the sales, and that's going to want to make them click on the video. Now you don't need to actually make the full thumbnail right now, but you really should have a clear picture on how it's going to come out. Because if we write the script and the thumbnail ends up being completely different, it's not going to align with your hook, and then the viewer is just going to leave. So with the title and thumbnail done correctly, it's going to create enough curiosity and implement questions into the viewer's head, and it's going to want to make them click on the video. Which brings us on to step 5, and this is where we plan the video structure. This is critical because if your talking points are all over the place, the viewer will just get confused and end up leaving the video entirely. And you'll lose any chance of turning them into a paying client. So the first thing you want to do is open up a new blank document And we want to write down the end goal that you want the viewer to have learned by the end of the video down first. So go back to the old document where we done the brainstorm and copy the key thing that you wanted the viewer to have learned by the end of the video and paste it into the new document. Again, the reason why we're doing this is so we can visibly always see the end goal of the video. It just provides a lot of clarity. And then behind the end goal, we simply want to put down the exact step-by-steps for someone who is a beginner would need to take to achieve this end goal. For each step, you can look back at the brain dump and write down an overview of what you want to talk about inside each step, just like this. So this way it's going to give you a clear, structured way to easily record the video, but it's also going to allow your viewers to not get confused and actually know how to solve the problem. Which brings us on to step 6, and this is how you're going to present your video. So once you've shot it, just keep the edit simple, maybe add in some text, and then there's no need to have any weird effects or animations. All that just makes it even more confusing for the viewer, so there's no need for any of it. After that, we have one last critical step that is essential to turning the viewer into an actual client. And it's to make sure to put the link to your product or service at the top of the description. I see so many coaches and consultants putting their social medias at the top and putting all sorts of different links. And if you don't put the link to your product or service at the top of the description, not everyone is going to see it. It's just going to ruin your results, and ultimately you're going to lose out on clients and sales. Now that you have the video framework that will land you high ticket clients, you're still missing one key piece of information. And that's exactly what to say on camera and where to strategically place your call to actions so you don't sound like every other coach awkwardly asking for the sale. Because here's the thing, you can follow this framework perfectly, but if you don't know how to script your delivery or when to make your pitch, you'll still end up with viewers who love your content but never actually become paying clients. So if you want the exact scripting formula and call to action placement strategy that turns viewers into high ticket clients, click the video on your screen right now where I break down the complete scripting system step by step.